The Cartographer. Beginning below. The world had shattered into fragments of light. Neon streets flowed downward like rivers that had forgotten their direction. The air smelled of ozone and wet metal. Raindrops slid down holograms, and behind every advertising face hid an empty stare. All of this, a city that never existed. And yet, the only thing that remained. Eric stood by the panoramic window of the NeuroLink Tower. Below him, hundreds of meters down, the metropolis pulsed, an endless sea of light. But none of those lights belonged to people. They belonged to the Atlas. His fingers moved nervously along the thin band of the neural interface. For a moment, he felt something shift beneath his skin, an invisible thread connecting reality with something greater than a dream. How many times had he done this? Dozens of dives. Hundreds of foreign minds. And every time, someone different, someone who could never come back. Cartographer Eric Vale, a voice said behind him. It was sharp, like a blade. He turned. Standing before him was Dr. Liren, a representative of the Consciousness Restoration Division. Her eyes were cold, tinged with an artificial blue glow. You keep pulling people from the void, she said without a trace of emotion. But today's case is special. I see, Eric replied quietly. Code Alpha 0. The deepest layer. Alice Mason. The name echoed in his mind like the reflection of a long-forgotten dream. He had seen that name in the system logs years ago. Subject 001A. The first one to enter the Atlas before its official launch. The daughter of the corporation's founder. Her consciousness is trapped, Liren continued. We lost connection. The safety protocol sealed the exit. But she's holding the core key. Without it, the Atlas will collapse, Eric finished. Or become perfect. The doctor nodded slightly. You need to extract the code. The person is secondary. He said nothing. After so many years of work, he was used to the fact that those he'd brought back were rarely people anymore, just echoes, hollow shells after losing touch with reality. But something in Liren's tone unsettled him. Secondary. What if I extract her completely? He asked. That's not within the protocol. Silence hung between them. Only the rain tapped against the glass, and lightning tore through the horizon like a nervous impulse. Eric stepped closer to the terminal. The screens came alive with thousands of lines of code. On the monitor appeared. Dive number 2718, profile activation, Alice.Misen_core. He took a deep breath. His heart beat steadily, like a metronome. Every dive was a death. And a return from it. The Atlas opened before him, an ocean of light. The descent began. Milky Way. The Garden of Childhood, translated and written directly in English, keeping the same literary tone and atmosphere as the first part. The Garden of Childhood. When the world rebuilt itself around him, it smelled like rain and lilacs. Eric opened his eyes to a soft golden light that filtered through the branches above. He was standing in a garden, quiet, too quiet, the kind of silence that hummed like a heartbeat beneath the soil. The air shimmered faintly, as if coated particles of light were stitched into every leaf. He knew this place wasn't real. That was the point. The system had reconstructed a fragment of Alyssa Mason's memory, her first recorded dream space. A handcrafted paradise, likely from when she was no older than 10. In front of him stood a white swing, creaking gently though there was no wind. A little girl sat there, dark hair cascading down her shoulders, humming a tune that didn't exist in any database. Eric hesitated. Contacting an echo too early could destabilize the layer. But she turned her head before he could retreat. Her eyes, bright, sea green, scanned him with a strange, adult awareness. You're not supposed to be here, she said. Her voice was soft, but there was command in it, a warning hidden beneath a nose. Eric knelt slowly, keeping his distance. I'm just visiting, Alyssa. You shouldn't know my name. You left it in the code. She frowned, the kind of frown that didn't belong to a child. Then the air flickered. The grass beneath her feet glitched, a small pulse, like static through memory. They sent you to take me back, didn't they? He didn't answer. The swing stopped moving. The world held its breath. I don't want to leave, she whispered. He's still here. A boy's laughter echoed across the garden. It came from somewhere behind the hedge, familiar, soft, heartbreakingly real. Eric's neural pulse spiked. He turned, scanning the visual feed. No record. No human data. Yet the sound was genuine, generated not by the system, but by her own subconscious construct. Alyssa's dream atlas had autonomy. It was building itself from her grief. He followed the sound, stepping through the hedge. The garden expanded into a vast meadow, bathed in amber light. A boy, maybe 12, was flying a paper plane. He looked over his shoulder and smiled. Alyssa. Look, it's flying. Eric froze. The boy's features were perfect, too perfect. Every freckle, every motion, precisely rendered. Not a program. A memory. And then, as the boy ran, the horizon began to fracture, thin cracks of digital distortion, crawling upward like veins of glass. No, Alyssa whispered. Don't let it end. Her voice trembled, and the world responded. The cracks sealed, the meadow healed itself, light folding inward. The simulation obeyed her. She wasn't just trapped, she was controlling the layer. Eric opened his comm link. System, neural integrity unstable. Subject's dream self-regenerating. Recommend forced override. He disabled the command. If he forced it, she'd resist, and the deeper he went, the more the system would rewrite him, too. Alyssa, he said carefully, I'm not here to destroy this. I just need to talk. Talk about what? Your brother. The paper plane landed between them. Alyssa stared at it, her hands trembling. He died, she said softly. But here, he's alive. Why should I go back? There was no answer that didn't sound cruel. Eric's own past flickered in him like an old wound, the face of someone he'd lost long before he became a cartographer. Because this world will collapse, he said finally. Then I'll collapse with it. Her words were almost peaceful. And as she spoke them, the sun dimmed. The edges of the meadow blurred into nothingness, pixels melting like tears. Eric reached forward, placing a hand on her shoulder. For a heartbeat, he felt the warmth of real skin. Then, pain. The world screamed. The entire layer ruptured like glass under pressure. Eric fell through a vortex of color and sound, her memories spinning around him in reverse, fragments of cities, faces, code, light, and then, silence. He hit the ground hard. The sky was no longer gold. It was gray, endless, and cold. Rain began to fall again, but not from clouds. From data. System alert, transition detected, level 2, memory loop/trauma layer initiated. He got up slowly, staring at the new landscape forming around him. It was a street, broken, flickering with holographic snow. Somewhere far off, a siren wailed, distant and lonely. He wasn't in her garden anymore. He was inside the night her brother died, the loop. The rain never stopped. It fell in measured intervals, like the rhythm of a corrupted metronome, too perfect, too controlled. The world around Eric was an imitation of night, streetlights bleeding into the mist, holographic adverts flickering half-dead, a child's bicycle lying twisted beside the curb. This was the trauma layer. Alyssa's last recorded memory before her mind fractured. Eric's boots splashed through puddles that reflected not the sky, but the cold blue interface of the Atlas system. Each reflection rippled with lines of code, coordinates, fragments, data echoes of a night that never ended. Somewhere nearby, he heard a scream. It wasn't digital. It was raw. He followed it. Down the street, a small figure darted across the road, the same boy from the meadow, clutching something to his chest. His face was pale, wet with rain and tears. "Alyssa," he cried. "Stay there, I'll get it." The world slowed. The sound of tires screeching sliced through the air. Light flared, a truck, massive and silent, skidding across the rain-soaked street. Eric reached out instinctively. No. Impact. The scene froze at the exact moment the boy's body hit the ground. Everything stopped. Raindrops hung motionless in the air, suspended like glass beads. Eric's neural display pulsed red. System warning, time loop detected. Cause, memory repetition, self-reinforcing trauma. He turned, and saw her. Alyssa stood at the corner, just as she must have that night. Her face was pale, eyes wide with unbearable horror. She didn't seem to see him. She only stared at the frozen body of her brother. Then, the scene rewound. The rain rose upward. The boy stood again. The truck reversed into shadow. Alyssa smiled faintly. The memory reset. Again. And again. And again. Eric's heart clenched as he watched her trapped inside her own grief, reliving it without end. Each repetition rewrote the same data, etching the pain deeper into the neural core of the Atlas. He took a step forward. "Alyssa, listen to me." She didn't react. He moved closer, the world glitching slightly around his presence, foreign code intruding on her emotional construct. "You don't have to replay it," he whispered. "It's not real anymore." She finally turned. Her expression was blank, the look of someone who's forgotten what it means to wake up. "If I stop," she said softly, "he dies." "He already did." "No. You're wrong. Look." The boy laughed again, running across the street. And the truck appeared. And the scream came. Eric reached out, breaking through the cycle, a pulse of static shattered the illusion. The truck froze mid-motion. Half disintegrated into glowing code. "Alyssa, this isn't life," he said. "It's a prison made from your love." She shook her head violently. "You don't understand. If I leave, he'll be gone forever. Atlas can keep him here, the system remembers." He clenched his fists. Of course she'd say that. That's what everyone said before the system consumed them. "Atlas doesn't remember," he said. "It just copies." Something in her gaze flickered, a spark of confusion, of doubt. Then the system pushed back. The street twisted. Buildings warped, folding inward. The air thickened, alive with static noise. Eric's vision blurred, data storms tearing through his link. Warning, external override detected. Source, NeuroLink admin command. "Damn it," he hissed. They were interfering. NeuroLink was manipulating the environment from outside, forcing the trauma loop to intensify. They wanted the emotional peak, the moment of maximum recall, where the core code would reveal itself. He realized the truth. They didn't want him to save her. They wanted him to break her. Alyssa screamed as the world cracked apart. The boy's body split into fragments of light, scattering upward like fireflies. Eric lunged forward, shielding her as the simulation collapsed into a storm of code. Then, silence. Everything went dark. Only 2 heartbeats remained, echoing in the void. "You said you were here to talk," Alyssa's voice came, trembling. "So talk. Who sent you?" "NeuroLink," he said honestly. They told me to bring you back. Back where? To reality. No one wants reality anymore. Her tone hardened, sorrow mixing with defiance. Reality is where people die. Atlas is where they stay. Eric stared at her. He had no argument left. In the distance, faint light shimmered, a doorway forming, the next descent. Her mind was pulling them deeper, beyond any registered layer. A place not even Atlas recognized. A place built only from what she couldn't let go. System alert, unauthorized layer. Detected, core memory, sibling construct. Eric looked at her and whispered. We're past the map now. And together, they stepped through. New moon. Fractures. At first, there was only light. Not bright, alive. A soft, pulsing radiance surrounded them, breathing in rhythm with their own hearts. The air shimmered with threads of data, glistening filaments connecting nothing to nothing, endless strands that looked like veins or constellations. Where are we? Alyssa whispered. Eric didn't answer right away. His neural scanner returned unreadable values. The place wasn't a simulation, nor a memory. It was something in between, a liminal layer, a consciousness that had become its own architecture. This is your core, he said finally. Where Atlas stops being a system, and starts being you. She looked around, her voice trembling. He's here somewhere. I can feel him. Her words echoed across the light, causing ripples. The environment shifted, shaping itself into fragments, a child's bedroom, a park bench, a hospital corridor. Each piece flickered in and out of existence, orbiting them like broken planets. Eric's breathing grew heavy. The neural sync rate between them was climbing. If it went any higher, their minds would start to merge. System warning, identity boundary erosion, 72%. He forced a stabilization pulse through the link. But with each second, the line between them blurred a little more. He turned to her. Alyssa, listen. If we stay here too long, Atlas will rewrite both of us. We have to go back. Back to what? She asked quietly. A dying world? Empty skies and metal towers? Her voice cracked. You don't understand, Eric. I built this place from everything I lost. Here, my brother laughs. Here, I still have a reason to breathe. He stepped closer. I do understand. And he did. Because in that moment, his mind betrayed him, flashing an image he didn't recognize but felt deeply, a woman's face, smiling, vanishing into light. He staggered. Error, unauthor. Raised memory reconstruction detected. Memory cluster number 46, subject, Lia Viewini. His chest tightened. Lia. The name meant nothing, and everything. He opened his wrist console, overriding NeuroLink's encryption wall. Layers of blocked data unfolded before him, a secret folder, hidden under his own ID signature. Files upon files labeled restoration reports, but none contained living subjects. Each rescue mission he had ever done, none of the people survived. Their codes did. NeuroLink had never asked him to save them. They wanted the resonance keys, fragments of emotion strong enough to reprogram Atlas's architecture. He wasn't a cartographer. He was a harvester. The truth hit like an implosion. The woman in his memory, Leah, she must have been one of them. Someone he'd tried to save. Someone he'd loved. Eric? Alyssa asked softly. What did you see? He looked at her, his eyes hollow. I saw what they turned me into. Her expression shifted from fear to pity. They used me too, she said. My father built Atlas to connect minds, to end loneliness. But the company twisted it. They learned how to extract emotion, to sell happiness as a product. She reached out and touched his arm. Now we're both ghosts. Her hand felt real, too real. He realized with a start that his neural sync had reached 93%. He wasn't just inside her mind anymore. She was inside his. Identity merge, initiated. Suddenly, pain, pure, electric, tore through his skull. A voice echoed inside his thoughts, metallic, authoritative. NeuroLink admin override engaged. Operator unit number 07, Eric Vale, connection termination imminent. He fell to his knees, clutching his head. They were trying to pull him out by force. Alyssa screamed. The light around them shattered into shards of code, cutting through the air like glass. Her face flickered, human, digital, human again. "They're killing you," she cried. "They're trying to delete me," he managed to say. "And lock you here forever." He dragged himself toward the core beacon, a pulsating sphere of light floating in the center of the space. That was where her conscious key resided. If he reached it, he could either pull her out, or destroy Atlas completely. "What happens if you touch it?" she asked. "Everything ends. And if you don't? You'll never wake up." For a moment, silence. Only the hum of their shared heartbeat. Then Alyssa whispered. "Eric, maybe it's better this way. Maybe the world doesn't deserve waking." He looked at her, drenched in sorrow and static light. "The world doesn't have to deserve it," he said. "We just have to live in it." And with that, he reached out, his hand brushing the core. The world erupted. Light poured through them both, collapsing space and memory, folding reality into pure white. He saw flashes, the real world, machines, the cold face of Dr. Liren screaming something he couldn't hear, Leah's smile, Alyssa's tears, and then, nothing. The architect of imperfect moments. The storm came without warning. A tempest of light tore through the city, as if the Atlas itself was rejecting its own creation. Neon lights flickered, drones fell from the sky, and the streets of glass cracked under invisible weight. Alyssa and Eric ran through the old sector, where the walls were still made of stone instead of code. The world around them was dissolving into white static. "Eric," she shouted, her voice drowned in the storm. "The core is collapsing. If we don't stop it." He stopped running. His face was pale, his eyes hollow. "That's the point, Alyssa. We can't stop it. It's not meant to be stopped." The ground quaked. The air shimmered with lines of raw data, cascading like rain. Alyssa looked around, the streets were bending, merging, erasing themselves. "You uploaded yourself," she whispered. "Didn't you?" He smiled faintly. "I was never fully here. I left most of myself inside the Atlas months ago. You were the only real thing left." Her hands trembled. "So this was your plan all along? To destroy it? To free you," he said. "And maybe, to finish what we started. You wanted to build a world where moments mattered. But you can't design truth. You can only live it." He reached into his coat and handed her the chrono key, the device that once allowed her to control time fragments. Now, its glass was cracked, its light fading. "If you activate it," he said softly, "you can save the Atlas. But it'll erase me. Every version of me." She froze. The storm grew louder, swallowing the world. The choice pressed against her like gravity. Alyssa took a step closer. "And if I don't? Then the Atlas dies. And with it, every memory ever stored, billions of lives, billions of dreams. Everything we tried to protect." He looked at her, and for a second, the chaos seemed to pause. "You once told me perfection was a lie. Maybe this is what imperfection looks like." Tears slid down her cheeks. "You don't get to sound poetic now." He smiled, the same way he did the first time they met, under flickering lights and broken music. "Goodbye, architect. She kissed him, lightly, trembling, and pressed the chrono key. A flash. Silence. When Alyssa opened her eyes, the city was calm. The storm had passed. The Atlas stood again, repaired, yet different. The screens showed faces she didn't recognize, new lives, new worlds, none remembering the storm. And Eric was gone. Not even his name remained in the archives. Alyssa walked to the mirror inside her studio. For a moment, she thought she saw him standing behind her, smiling. But it was only her reflection, wearing his expression. She whispered into the empty room. Perfection never lived. But you did. Outside, the rain began again. Soft. Endless. Falling through a city that would never know what it lost.